Sure, this sort of dysfunction on Capitol Hill shouldn't be too surprising coming from an institution with all-time low favorability ratings. In fact, cockroaches are more popular than this Congress. But is this another instance where both parties are to blame? Well, the American people overwhelmingly say no. A Quinnipiac poll released this week shows that Americans oppose the Republican strategy of shutting down the government to defund or delay Obamacare by a margin of 72 to 22%. That same poll shows 74% of Americans disapproving of the job Republicans in Congress are doing. That's the highest disapproval score ever. When it comes to Democrats, 60% of Americans disapprove of the job they're doing. So while there might be dysfunction among both Democrats and Republicans, this latest fiasco seems to fall squarely on the shoulders of Speaker John Boehner and the House Republicans. Is there any chance that these antics on Capitol Hill could have significant changes on the political landscape across America? Earlier, I spoke with a man who isn't a fan of either party, former independent Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura, the author of the new book, They Killed Our President. And I first asked him what his take is on this shutdown.
Well, I think it's despicable that they would shut the government down over something that's already been put to law, this health care. And my belief is this: is Obamacare perfect? I don't know. But I believe this. I believe in a country as great as ours that anyone who's sick should have the right to go to a doctor. It's that simple. And if we weren't involved in all these wars throughout the world, we'd have more than enough money for that. Yet they will shut the government down. They will jeopardize our national security in the shutdown, all because they don't like the fact that they're trying to give everyone health care. Yet our elected officials, these same Democrats and Republican congressmen and senators, they get 4 choices of health care that they want. And isn't that government-run health care? They're hypocrites.
There's been a lot of criticism leveled at the mainstream media for trying to be too balanced here and saying both parties are to blame for this shutdown, and that really what's happening is that Republicans in Congress are engaging in unprecedented extremist tactics to defund Obamacare. Do you see one side more to blame than the other in this?
Yeah, I see the Republicans more to blame because it already passed. Obama already stood on it for re-election, and the people re-elected him. Now, having said that, though, I still dislike both parties and urge people, in light of this shutdown, vote them all out of office. The only thing is, don't vote in Democrats and Republicans when you replace them. Let's clean house. This is an opportunity for America to truly stand up and clean our own house out of these Democrats and Republicans that allegedly want to run our country.
If you were a President Ventura at the time and you were dealing with this sort of congressional dysfunction here, how would you handle it?
Well, it's difficult. I faced that when I was governor of Minnesota because I was independent and I had a Republican-controlled House and a Democratic-controlled Senate. And the way it worked for me for 3 years, whichever side I sided with prevailed until my last year. That's when they teamed up. They overruled my budget. They brought their own budget in. I vetoed it twice, and they banded together and overrode my veto twice. And you know what that showed? It showed I'm the most powerful man in the United States, because who else could get the Democrats and Republicans in bed together to oppose you?
Well, I mean, Edward Snowden's kind of doing that with his leaks, bringing Republicans and Democrats together on that issue.
Let me tell you this, if I were the President of the United States, I would pardon Bradley Manning and I would pardon Snowden immediately.
Gotcha. Now, this, of course, going back to the budget, this is the latest in a series of budget fights and self-inflicted economic wounds brought about by this Congress, the least popular Congress ever. You've long been an advocate for third parties, for breaking up the two-party system. How much more dysfunction in Washington will it take before people start looking for alternatives?
I hope this is the final straw, or the straw that breaks the camel's back, but I do not support a third-party movement anymore. I support the abolishment of all political parties, and I have good allies, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and George Washington. In fact, I made the statement that if I ran for president, I would give the people the opportunity to vote for their first president who belongs to no political party since George Washington. Isn't that remarkable? We could elect a president that doesn't belong to either of these gangs, because I refer to them as gangs.
Well, Washington famously remarked that these parties should be outlawed, as you're talking about. Do you think that here we are, 200 plus years since that warning, and we're seeing this dysfunction, that is an offshoot of this sort of two-party system that's taken hold?
It completely is. Our forefathers warned us of this, but we're not listening. That's the problem with this country, the apathy. We need to have engaged citizens. We need vigilant citizens. That's what they wanted for this country, to keep our republic, the democracy that they created. We've all been sitting on our hands. We all haven't been active. Maybe this will get people up and active again to take their government back. We forget one major thing. They work for us. We don't work for them, and we've lost sight of that.
In 2 weeks, there's going to be this whole debate is going to repeat again with this debt limit fight. What do you make of this concept of a debt limit to begin with, and the fact that it's now being used as Congress to try and get other things passed? Should there even be a debt limit, and should the president just raise it on his own at this point?
I'm not sure on that, but I'd like to just address the debt. The Democrats and Republicans have been in charge of our country now for 150 years, and look at the debt we've incurred with them in charge. If that was their home finances, they'd be bag people living on the street, wouldn't they? They've run our country into debt. They have done it. And when are the people going to wake up to that fact? The Democrats and Republicans are responsible. You notice how I lumped them together, because that's where they belong.
Republicans and Democrats, I think, is the way you referred to them before.
Absolutely. Republicans and Democrats. That was my last book previous to this one on the JFK murder. It was called No More Gangs in Government, and that's what I stand for, the abolishment of political parties. And we could do it one simple way. Why do they put a political party on the ballot? Just put the name. That's done for a reason. It makes it so the electorate doesn't have to educate themselves. If you're liberal, you go in and look for Democrat. If you're conservative, you go in and look for the word Republican. You don't even have to know who the candidates are. Let's get those parties off the ballot and just put the candidates' names down. Then the people have to educate themselves of what does John Smith stand for.
Gotcha. Governor, one last question.
Sure.
You starred in the movie Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers. That movie famously produced 2 governors. What is it about the movie that produced such gubernatorial success, and why wasn't Carl Weathers able to capitalize on that?
Well, because Carl probably doesn't want to get into politics. I didn't think he had any inclination to do so. I don't know, but always remember this. I was governor before Arnold, and I won a real election, not a recall election.
There you go. That was Jesse Ventura, former governor of Minnesota and author of the book, They Killed Our President. Thank you.
Thank you.